All right, everyone. Gonna go ahead and get started. If you're not familiar with Zoom, you should have a group chat feature. Um, so I'll allow for questions and answers as we go. You can and feel free to type it in, ask questions. I'll try to address something if I can. Also, getting a quick screen verification and video check. So if you can hear me, let me know. Someone let me know, and we'll go forward. Yeah, just let me know if you can hear. Make sure we got everything set up correctly. All right, sounds good. All right, everyone, welcome. This is Kevin with Forex-Trading-Analysis.com. We'll do a little live market analysis session. Try to have these for our members at least once a month, twice a month, sometimes more often if we can, um, which is outside of our normal posting of daily charts every day in our Telegram channel. So let's get started. And basically, I'm going to just go through food parts like I normally would, and look for setup for things to share to members. So I'm kind of starting from scratch. I did not look at anything yesterday to charts. So I'll look at daily charts, try to drill down to 4 hour charts. See anything in particular. I won't go into detail on every chart because of time. So I'll share what we have, what I see as of now. And as I mentioned, if you want to type in some any questions, comments, go ahead and type those in, and I'll see those pop up, and I'll address them. I'll address them right away, but I'll try to address them toward the end. Something that is kind of away from what we're currently looking at. So anyway, let's get started. Here I am showing the daily Aussie CAD. As you can see, we've had kind of a bearish trend since end of 2016, and actually before that, but most recently 2016. So kind of in a consolidating pattern, going down. We'd like to obviously we try to look any trends, try to identify any trade opportunities. So you always want to go back and reevaluate higher level time frames to see what the pattern of the market is as far as the bias and trend, and then drill down from there, try to identify any patterns, anything we see. And if you're not aware, what we try to do at Forex-Trading-Analysis.com is I evaluate and try to find setups using uh, multiple analysis methods. Just know your normal price action, support, resistance, patterns, harmonic patterns, Elliott wave, um, Bollinger Bands, if it's there. A lot of times we use these in conjunction with each other to help us better identify trades. So we don't just stick to one method. We look at a lot of different styles of trading and strategies. And as we mentioned before, the strategies are always different between the particular type of trader. So one strategy may not particularly fit another trader's style of trading, but that's just the way trading is. So we'll make sure and try to explain that if we see anything. Have someone having a hard time hearing, I guess. Um, if anyone else is having a hard time hearing, let me know. I'll try to see if I can adjust the, the settings now, I will have to just move forward. Yeah, because I'm not sure if I can adjust that while I'm in the middle of recording. Type a quick note. All right, so we'll move forward. Aussie CAD, as you can see here, descending trend. We've got a trend line shown here on this consolidation triangle channel, what have you. Currently have pulled back to the trend line where we sit right now. So we'll be continuing to watch that. We could see a bounce from here, or if we continue to fall down inside below that, we can see some, a little bit further choppiness down in that area. We do have the 200 MA just below, so that could form a small support area. So we'll see. We do have a short-term bullish movement since the end of February. So again, these are the things you try to look at. If we draw a trend line from that low back in February, again, you can see the confluence of different support areas that may come into play to look for a bounce higher. If we look at the 4-hour, same situation. Looking for some support here in this area. Otherwise, a drop below this 4-hour trend line could see some further downside. While we have Aussie CAD up, we identified this in our member channel a week or so ago, maybe a little longer. We have a bearish harmonic Gartley pattern. As you can see, I had identified the typical completion zone for that pattern when it was in that area. So this pattern could potentially come into play as another bearish sign. Could have completed here in this zone. Looks like it hit it a couple times before dropping. So when you look at those type of patterns, you're generally looking at a pullback to a couple different areas for seeing a bounce. We've already reached one of those minor reversal areas, which is a 23.6 fib. So whether this pattern complete or continues lower remains to be seen, but it's just another aspect of how we try to identify trades in the market with a couple of different methods. So we could see a further drop down to the 38.2% around 9,500, or it could just continue on. So it's just one of the things to monitor. Either way, don't necessarily see a trade at the moment until we possibly get down to looking at breaking of this trend line. Currently at this under support area. So you could be watching for a bounce here. And again, a bounce doesn't necessarily mean a big bounce. It could just be a small bounce similar to this before continuing lower. Always looking at support resistance areas. So just a couple different aspects of that particular pair to be aware of. Like I said, nothing right now to trade that I see, but definitely worth watching. So we will move on. Aussie Swiss. All right, so Aussie Swiss on the daily. Sorry if I'm jumping around. I don't like to use the auto scale just because I like to view my charts in a certain area on the screen, and that doesn't always work for me. But Aussie Swiss, similar type situation. We've got a downtrend, bearish trend, currently at that tested that descending trend line last week, yesterday. So could potentially see a pullback from here. Could potentially see a pullback from here before bouncing and then watching whatever happens from there. And I will say, just because I have a question about the pound yen, yeah, my plan is to try to get through as much of the pairs as I can, and I'll kind of go through those in order. So I will get to the pound yen, but if there is one I do kind of skip over because I don't see much to talk about, go ahead and put it in there. We can look at it. But yeah, that's just for your info. I'll try to get to those to all the pairs as we go. This will kind of be a complete analysis of all the pairs that I see. So we should be able to get to everything everyone's looking at. All right, so back to Posi Swiss. As you can see, watching the daily, looks like we had a small gap down on the open today. So we need to watch and see more bearish price action going down on the 4 hour. Again, same type of situation. Could be looking at a pullback, minor pullback to roughly, see a support zone here, more or less. And again, when you get into this choppiness, there could be several different support areas. In the meantime, this is kind of what I'm seeing. And similar to the other pair, watch for breakthrough of short-term trend lines. So if we see a break down below here, we may be looking at that next support level before seeing a bounce. And then from there, we could go up, could go down, just need to watch. So that's Aussie Swiss. Let me check. Okay, so this, and just for everyone's info, this was a trade we had placed on March 24th. So as you can see, we had multiple harmonic patterns that we were looking at. We were looking at a AB equals CD pattern that was completing in this area, as well as I forget what type of harmonic pattern this was, but you can see we've got a harmonic pattern grab, or at least yeah, I'm not sure what it was. But anyways, you can see we were looking at around that same completion area, combined with a trend line, combined with a support area. So we went long at 70.32. Ultimately hit our very small take profit first, and then we left a remaining position running roughly until we got to this resistance zone. So where we ultimately exited out of the whole trade, but we made quite a few pips, 200, something around that area, a little bit less than 200. I don't remember exactly, but that was a good trade for us. So as you can see, using multiple analysis just opens up your opportunities to find good trades. So as you can see, we identified this kind of as a resistance area, and that is where we currently are. Again, this is that would have been basically this. So we bounced off of that, and what's not shown on this chart is that daily descending trend line. So something there has pulled back. Now we just need to see if it has continued strength to break through higher on that. So covers all these Swiss. The yen, like I said, you may see some notes and things that I haven't had a chance to hide or get rid of, because I'm basically, like I said, reevaluating the charts, daily charts from scratch since last week. So Aussie yen, another downward downward trend, have a possibility of a little bit higher move up to retest that trend line. Currently sitting at a 4-hour support area. So watching for a bounce off of that support to see if we can continue to move higher. It's also rejected and hung around this 200 MA, which just basically indicates it's just an area that people watching for that may have caused a reversal, either a small reversal or a continued lower reversal, but a reversal nonetheless. So here's our potential daily outlook. So you'll want to watch price action here at this support zone to see if you get any bullish price action or not. Otherwise, we could be looking for a move lower, a continued move lower as we've broken the trend line. And we currently have a position in the Aussie yen short. So I'll zoom in here in just a second, but we identified this last week on the 17th, a bearish Gartley pattern. So we were looking at this potential bearish Gartley pattern, and then you have to zoom in to kind of see it. Pair ultimately printed. So we were in the, it's not shown, but we were in the pattern completion zone to look for this pattern to complete. So we began looking at opportunities. There's also a defined resistance area. So pattern was looking at completing in that area. We also had divergence on the RSI to indicate that we could be seeing a bearish move from that area, as you can see. So the next step was we watched price action. We ended up seeing a 3 inside down reversal pattern print, which is a trend, a bullish candle, and then you have a smaller bearish rejection candle that kind of ends roughly midway through the previous candle, and then we have a big bearish candle that closes below that last bullish candle. That's kind of a trend reversal, 3 candle move that looking at reversing pattern. So what we did was after that, we watched for a pullback to this resistance zone, and then we entered into a short sell, a short order here at 80.43. And as you can see, it after that, it did take a quick spike up, a little news event, but we try not to panic when we see things like that. We're looking at our trades. We see what we see a potential trade, and we stick to the plan. We didn't exit out when we saw the spike. We were comfortable with our stop loss. So as you can see, the spike just turned out to be just that, a big wick. Ultimately closed back down right above the open, and then we reject that resistance and have ultimately dropped, taken out our 2 target areas. We have a current remaining position running. So that current position is roughly in profit about 63, 62 pips right now. So we're going to let that ride and see if we can continue to get a drop lower. So what we will be looking at on that is a potential pullback of the CD leg, roughly to continue down to next level of 38.2%, which also looks to be a nice little support zone. So before we see a reaction, the reaction could be short, it could be small, or it could continue higher. But the thing is to know that's an area where we want to look at maybe taking another portion off of our existing position or just letting it run. It's all all on the trader's discretion on what they want to do. So you can see we're in this area to see a reaction. So we'll be watching to see what it does from there. But ultimately, the overall analysis played out on a harmonic pattern. And as you can see, this is just the simple support resistance aspect of the trade. So the trade has worked out pretty good for us. So we will continue on with the Kiwi. Consolidating. Currently on the daily, we are at a rough resistance zone. And again, this is a lot of this choppiness. This is just kind of a midpoint. Seeing a lot of touches, not an actual level. So you could put a line here. You could put a line there, just looking at where the prices touch that. So the point is, there's a resistance area in that level. Also, we have 200 MA, so we may want to watch for any type of reaction lower from here to see what's we do. Looking at any kind of divergence. Yeah, we do have some regular divergence here. So let me get rid of those. So on RSI, you can see we have, this is basically another indication of bearish, a potential bearish reversal. Got some RSI divergence, bearish divergence here. So this could be a good point to look for now a rejection of this area to continue lower at some point. Daily. Hour. I've got a fib shown in here, which was basically the fib from this high to this wick low. Now, whether you use that wick as the actual low, that's always debatable. It's still good to look at it and see. In that sense, we came to roughly the 50%. If I were to look at this being the ultimate low, which we've already been lower, that doesn't really at this point. Look at this low, still in that 50% fib. So we could be looking at a short opportunity here, at least in this area. Not definitely right now, but one thing just be aware of. So drill down even further, you could be looking at a potential 1 hour. Look at any 1 hour breakout opportunities. These may be opportunities to look at either short or long. Just you just don't know what it's going to do. So watch for breakouts this way, or you could break out that way. Just something to be aware of as you do your analysis and as you look at your charts and track and see what pairs do, even though you don't trade them. So that's Aussie, New Zealand. Not currently looking at anything on that at the moment to trade. Aussie dollar. So we've got kind of a messy chart. So we've been on a downtrend, bearish trend for a while, depending on where you put your trend lines. So we put it here. We could be looking for a little bit low, a little bit more shallower pullback before maybe going higher. So we'll be watching to see what that does. We do have a current trade on this pair. I don't quite remember. I remember what it was. So let's watch for maybe a potential lower move. Maybe down to 7,100. We have a down to this trend line or around this support area. May coincide with the 200 MA. So after we broke that trend line, came back up, retested. Now it's back down. So we had this trade also based on a harmonic or what have you pattern, an AB CD pattern similar to the other pair, Aussie pair we traded. We were looking for some bearish movement after we were looking at completion in this zone with a resistance area. So in this one, we also received a 3 inside down reversal pattern with a rejection up before it ultimately broke down. So we sold below the low of this last candle here. If you can see that. So we sold when it broke down below there. As you can see, rejected, and then ultimately fell. So we entered that one at 71.49. Or actually, no, we were looking at that. I'm sorry. This is one because we were already in an Aussie trade. I had this noted for our members that you could ultimately watch for that break below. This big bearish candle broke fairly quickly below, so we didn't actually sell at that point. We were using this more as a confirmation after we broke down below, and then we retested several times. So we didn't actually sell at that point. This was more of an indication that the pair is looking for a reversal. So what we did was we waited until after the pair had already rejected, showed us signs of that rejection and of that reversal. We waited until the pair broke below this ascending trend line before we entered. So broke below, retested. We entered here at 71.49. I don't have them shown here. I'll have to look at the chart. We entered in this area. I believe we hit a small take profit just to go ahead and get something. After that, we continued down. Now 20 pips lower, so we'll continue to watch for that move down as we go. It's not a high pip trade at the moment, but we've already reached 50%, so at least we've got something out of the trade, but something is always better than nothing. So we'll continue to watch our trade in that. CAD Swiss, a lot of lines here that could probably go away. Just for clarity. So here again, we're reaching a E collection point, ascending trend line. Roughly getting close to this resistance area here on the 4 hour. I've got some other stuff shown from a previous trade we had a couple of weeks ago, where we were buying on a high, higher low sequence. Took out a couple of profit take targets before we ultimately exit out of the trade, so that was a good trade higher. But now we're in the, and we essentially exited out of this long trade, roughly this area of this trend line, just because we weren't sure if it was going to reject and move lower from there or not, and protect our profits of the trade and reevaluate. So now we're currently at that area of a resistance. The trend line have some, again, some bearish divergence. As you can see here, we're bearish on the right side, and our price is doing that. So we could be looking at we have some bearish pressure here to continue moving lower. And saw this morning. So as you can see, let's identify another pattern here, bearish pattern. So combined with that RSI, bearish RSI, and then the resistance in that resistance area, we could be looking at a move lower from here. And again, you never know how deep the move will go, but the thing to know is this is an area that we will be looking for a move lower. So you'll be watching price action, the decision candles here, multiple ways to trade it. You can watch for closing of candles below certain levels, breakout below, this candle. All depends on how a trader likes to trade, their risks and reward tolerances and then such. Break below this trend line. You could also trade before it went down there. So different things to look at, just something to be aware of, that is we're looking for potential bearish move here. At least it's could be just down for that's a support zone here at 75-60 area. So maybe a trade we'll be looking at for our members here after we get through all this. Head yen, another pair that we have been in. So we were in long. This is an old setup. Not sure why my sorry, I'm trying to look for, we're in this trade and I had the trade parameters set, but I don't know why they're not showing. There we go. Yeah, I had everything hidden for whatever reason. All right, so we had an inverted head and shoulder pattern we identified back on the 15th, so a week ago. So we decided to go long on a break above. Pair has since bounced around from there, so we're still watching this, still watching to see what it's going to do, but we're still in the trade. Originally had my stop here below this candle, but pair had just kind of bounced around. It took a shot at moving higher, ultimately failed, came back down. So I ended up adjusting my stop down lower below the right shoulder. So still respecting this neckline. So I'm still in the trade, watching to see what it does. Anyway, this would have been a continuation, head and shoulder. So a bullish trend and then a pullback, and then looking at this pattern, eventually move forward higher. So again, watching the trade, see what it does according to the pattern is where we stand right now. Swiss yen daily. I've got a couple of different trend lines shown. This was just from explanations to members last week. So the purple was an overall triangle that we were looking at, ultimately broke down below. Orange line was a smaller time frame triangle that we were looking at, just showing some of the different options at the time. So as you can see, the daily, some of these yen pairs are kind of looking the same the last several months. So we'll look and see what we see on smaller time frames. And here was the potential that we showed within this triangle. So get rid of that. This still looks like it could be at least a current possibility. And that's if the pair doesn't just continue to drop from here. So not really seeing much moment clear on this pair. So just need to continue to watch. Does look like it had some bearish potential to at least go a little bit lower for react. Euro Aussie. So we had this channel identified in the red, broke out of, and then has continued to test and reject here in this area. So zooming back out on the daily, you can see we ultimately hit this big resistance double top area before we continue down. Throw in a trend line here. Throw in a few support resistance lines. Check. As you can see, it's ultimately down in this channel, purple channel, until we hit this ascending trend line. It has since had a big bullish candle. So price is still relatively choppy. Got a couple of channels here where we're watching. So potential with that, I don't see trade unless you kind of want to trade a swing, but you're kind of in an area where there's some support resistance areas that you're just not sure. So could swing back down, do that, lower from there to the channel. Just hard to tell right now. So I'm not going to choose to trade this at the moment, just too choppy. Those are just some areas to potentially watch for bounces. Some traders like to trade all these swings. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Just don't have a lot of confidence in this one in particular, just because of where it's at in the market with resistances, trend lines, and the big choppy channel followed by a smaller choppy channel. Just hard to tell what it's going to do. EuroCAD. This is an old setup that we got out of. We are in a current sell trade on this one. Don't have the plotted here. Let's see. All right. Didn't have the chart for our EuroCAD sell. So we sold at 50.59. Looking for a target 50.30 at first. Now I think we hit that. Yeah, 50.59 and then 50.30. We hit that. So we had a small little, I guess you call it scalp, little EuroCAD trade. I still have a position running in it, or actually two positions from 50.59. I believe that was more of a kind of a trend line breakout retest. So we entered. So we had a false breakout here, retested. We entered after the break again. And has chopped around since then, but we did get our 29 pips, I believe, out of that. So looking for it to continue to reject this resistance and continue down. So we'll see what that ultimately does, and if we continue lower from here. That was our current trade, one of our current trades on the pair. Trying to look at any other potential. So we do have a good support area there. So obviously we're hoping for this for our trade. So Euro Swiss. Bring back up. Chat. All right. Euro Swiss, as you can see, I don't have much at the moment for that. Kind of at a trend line resistance after a big move up in the pair over the last couple of weeks. So we could be looking at a retest of this resistance before seeing anything happen. So potential drop in there. Yeah. Really seem like a mountain. Euro pound. Currently still pressing up against this resistance area. Whether we get this little pullback we showed last week or not, now may have already passed. If not, looking at that. So I'm going to break that this wedge. Higher up to the next resistance. That's on the daily. I don't really see anything on the 4 hour just because of the chopping that's over the past month with the consolidation. So I'm going to leave that one as it is. Euro yen. Not much on the daily. 4 hour, we were looking at this last week. So looking at continuing to respect this ascending trend line to see if we can get a push back up to this 126.25 area for resistance, and then watching from there. No clear direction at the moment. Euro, New Zealand dollar. This was a good trade for us a couple weeks ago. Excuse me. So here we traded a inverted head and shoulder, hit a first target, and then we had identified a potential take target up here, but I believe I got out of the trade a little bit lower just because of the resistance area, among some other things. Seeing some bearish divergence. I didn't want to get caught losing our, or at least losing out on some profit. So I went ahead and exited. But we ultimately, with news, and it seems like it always happens when we exit out of trades before news or at certain points, and there's certain reasons why we do that. Sometimes the trades continue on and would have given us target. So ultimately, not really trade. So we moved on from there, but that was potential. That was the view of this pair at that time. Inverted shoulder. From here, still watching to see what the potential possibilities are. Haven't seen resistance again. There's a lot of choppiness, so it's hard to really pinpoint a good area. Maybe this one's a little bit better. So we could be looking for continuing to higher up to this resistance before pulling back. Let's see if we can pass through this 200 MA. It could be a potential scenario. Euro dollar. Looking cyclic bubbles here, as you can see. This was just kind of an explanation for members how cycle patterns can kind of indicate swings in the market, completion swings, as you can see. Cycles, and you got sub-cycles within those cycles, kind of give you some indications, like I said, of that just shows how they correlate to the cycle times when those complete or have a potential to be at least complete and then see a change in direction. Not necessarily a higher or lower change, but a change nonetheless. So this was just following through that. As you can see, here's kind of another one. It's basically Hurst cycles. So this kind of gives you a potential idea of, maybe this thing will bounce, could complete this cycle maybe roughly at that trend line. But again, it doesn't necessarily have to move up. It could be moving down and completing it around in that cycle time area. It's just changes to be what things to be watching in the market as it relates to time. So getting rid of all that, we can look at it. You can see euro dollar has been pretty choppy, not easy to trade for a while. Too much uncertainty what it's going to do, so I haven't really looked at that too closely. Too much choppiness. Down Aussie. I apologize. Sometimes my lower time frame analysis, I don't always take the time to go back and hide them to look at the daily. So a lot of times you'll see these 4-hour comments and patterns shown on the daily. This one ultimately we've kind of a daily wedge, sending wedge here. Has kind of reached this support zone. So we'll be watching to see if this wedge, after this last couple of days indecision candles, be watching for this wedge breakout here. So if we get a breakout, we'll be looking at higher levels. We've got a descending wedge that looks like it could be completing at this support zone. I got 200 MA, 150 pips below, but last couple of days have been some nice indecision candles. So looking at that on the 4-hour, so you'll be wanting to watch for any breakout opportunities of this wedge. So if you break out, maybe watch for retest of zones, descending trend line, which this particular case, I don't always like to trade on retest of descending trend lines, just because it's obviously going to be at a lower area, but it doesn't necessarily mean you couldn't trade it. So just multiple options to be watching for if we get a breakout here. So pound Aussie looking like turning bullish soon. Keeping an eye on that. Pound CAD. Same situation. Or same situation, another situation of some cockiness, uncertainty. Still in a resist support zone. So no clear direction from here. Could see a retest of that lower. That's essentially all I see on this pair. Down Swiss. Not a lot here as well. We are currently in a heavy resistance zone that has just been floundering around inside of it for the last couple of weeks. So watching to see if we get an ultimate break out of this before knowing what it's going to do. So there's a couple potential possibilities. Now again, the onion was in I kind of marked it as ascending trend or as descending channel. A couple of false breakouts. Since breaking out of that channel back in February, we've essentially retested it. Show this ascending trend line that we've bounced off of a couple of times, have kind of broken below that, but have essentially been consolidating since the end of February. Not seeing anything else on the daily. So this trend line, if we're looking at that as a base of a breakout, we've broken below it, so you can see a retest and it moved lower. If we again, trend lines are just subjective. You can draw trend lines from multiple different places, so they're just a view of the market, not necessarily defined do or die levels all the time. It's essentially just in a case where we're still in a consolidation. Consolidation. So you could continue to bounce around in this consolidation area for higher or lower. But again, as with any pair, it's something to put on your charts, to monitor. You don't have to trade everything you see, but it's good to know the market moves and learn how the market is fluid, and something you see that looks like a valid trade now, several hours later, a day later, it completely change, and you may see something different based on the changes, and you have to adjust. So you never want to get tied down with something being, oh yeah, I think it's a buy here. There's always multiple aspects in the pair. As far as pound yen right now, I don't really see any direction that I would be looking at trading. Down Kiwi, another cyclic example we had multiple multiple cycles shown here for the different swings and ending of those swings and how they coincided with the cyclic aspect. And we're not necessarily going to cover that right now, but it's just one of those things in the market that you look at and you're just kind of wow, that things are in the market do follow patterns and cycles and all that good stuff. So it's just something to be aware of when looking at certain trades and such. Not necessarily you would trade it like this based off of this, but just to be aware of to better understand the market. So New Zealand, as you can see, again, consolidating between heavy resistance, some support. So we'll be interested to see if this thing ultimately breaks higher out of this consolidation. But at the moment, nothing to trade. I'm going to question, do gaps always be filled? And Mr. Kennedy answered, it depends. It can be filled if the price moves a lot of pips or just a few pips. And that's essentially a good answer. No, there's no rule that gaps always will be filled. But again, it's just one of the things to be aware of when you see gaps. The market likes to try to gaps happen just for multiple reasons. That gaps meaning an opening or closing of a candle in relation to the next candle. There multitude of reasons, why gaps are there, news or whatever. Sometimes you just don't know what they are, but a lot of times price does like to refill those gaps. And a lot of times those create wicks. So sometimes we've used those in the past on identifying potential, potential entry points for trades. So we're looking at the middle of a trade, and we see that there's a gap. So yeah, it may go back to fill that gap. So we'll be looking at that point to, maybe make an entry or something to that effect. But no clear answer as a yes, it always will, or no, it won't. It's just something to be aware of and to try to use that in your trading or be aware of it to form your your opinion of your analysis of what you see on a trade. Pound dollar. Pair has been consolidating, kind of was tracking a potential triangle here, although it may not necessarily be valid right now. It kind of shifted a couple times. Actually, that. So we'll be watching for a move, a breakout of this area. Don't have a support zone. So down below there, could see our next support zone. Maybe right in there. We've got heavy downward pressure here. Tested this support times, so we'll see what it ultimately does. But so now this is what I see it potentially doing. New Zealand dollar CAD. watching for potential breakdown lower below this support. Although we do have 200 MA here, so we'll be watching that to see if it respects that before it moves higher short term, or if we continue to drop below it. And that was on the daily. Here you can see we're hitting a good support, 4-hour support zone. So if we don't ultimately break below it, then obviously you'll be watching for a bounce. And then work from there. Near the end, folks, we're at a little over an hour, so we'll continue finishing out the pairs that we're looking at. The Kiwi Swiss, not really seeing anything I like on the daily. Draw a trend line in there. So we broke, retested. Currently still now consolidating on a lower time frame. So hardly see anything on this pair. New Zealand dollar yen had a big triangle we broke out of. I believe we still have an open position in this. Yeah. So back in a month ago, so we've got a position that we've had open for a month, even though we've taken a couple of targets and target profits. We had a bearish Gartley pattern that we traded back up here at 76.11. Last remaining position still in. So 135 pips running off any position. So from this aspect, our next potential area to look for would be 74.45 down to 73.70 or so. So that's 38.2 and 50% fib from low. So we could see a little bit lower in that trade. So that kind of coincides with this this view. So don't really see any trades to enter in currently. But if you happen to be short, that was our view that we're still in on. Kiwi dollar, this was a trade we had a couple weeks ago as well. Sold up here at 67.44. We hit both take profits, I believe, on this already. We may have gotten out before that second take profit. I think we did. But either way, we hit our second take profit area of 66.80. Which is currently sitting at a support area of 66.70. So looking at the daily, Obviously, we've got the support area from the bottom of the wick. Currently at a support area, so nothing much to look at here right now that I see. Just need to watch and see moving forward. Again, I'm already out of this trade, but okay, here is the Sorry, I'm jumping around. Just trying to remind myself what we were looking at. We had a breakout of this triangle, multiple retests and rejections, and then we entered short below that. So that's part of what the trade was. As of now, I don't see anything else to move forward on that one. US dollar CAD. Currently consolidating in a triangle, watching for a potential breakout. At least right now, looking for a breakout higher. See multiple wick rejections down here. So be a good opportunity to watch for a breakout higher. Now, whether you trade the breakout here, retest, or you just continue to wait until you get above the high of this and break out of that. Maybe a safer trade to wait, break out the high of this, just because you do have the next resistance area is way up here at 36.70. So you still be okay to maybe wait. That's 200 pips rather than try to trade this choppiness. But again, every trader is different. So the 4-hour view. Again, here's a scenario we'll be watching. You could trade it on the 4-hour breakout. Just need to watch your lot sizes with your position sizes with your risk and reward. Because technically you'd want to put it down here, your stop below here, to make sure you don't get stopped out while it's still consolidating in this triangle, if that's what it does. So potential move higher in US dollar CAD. Swiss at a key area. Kind of went above a resistance area, but we are at a trend line resistance. So we could see that, or a move higher from here. This is a key resistance area that we're currently testing, and then past that, you could see up to this area. Over time frame, you'll be watching for pullback right here to go long or continuing higher. Last but not least, dollar yen. Mark this daily resistance in tandem with we had a long trade in this last week, or actually the 29th of March, so almost a month, 3 weeks now. So we traded this inverted head and shoulders. Still have one remaining position open, so we were long at 110.78. Currently at 111.92, so 120 pips. We hit both targets, and then we had the open position still running. So currently been consolidating in this big resistance area on the 4-hour. So that second target was essentially identifying this daily trend line as well as resistance. So that's why we had that target everything is risk-free now. But if we get above this trend line area, next levels to look at will be 112.50, and then up higher. Those are the next two immediate areas to be looking at on a daily aspect. But as of now, I don't see much to actually jump in and trade other than just watching it. Now let's see. We did post this for members. So you see on the daily, we had this red was our inverted head and shoulders we traded. So on a daily aspect, yeah, you could, we did put a scenario where you could be looking at this as this big inverted head and shoulders, the blue. And now we are currently retesting this support zone. Here's the neckline for the big blue head and shoulders. So we posed a couple of options that the trader could do. Buying on a retest of this. You could buy on a break above this high. Just depending on how a trader likes to trade it. So from a daily aspect, yeah, you could look at trading this inverted head and shoulders. You could trade breakout, retest. You can buy on the retest of this. All depends on how you like to trade. As you can see, a couple of patterns here indicate could see some higher, a little bit higher level in the dollar yen. Of course, you're always going to watch to make sure, you know, to see if the trade is going according to plan. This could always turn out to be just a double top from this resistance right here, and it could decide to get on lower. So you got to watch, make sure you adjust charts, levels, and go from there. So that's run through all the pairs, at least to some extent. If anyone has any other questions, I'll take another 5 minutes or so, answer any other questions before we wrap this up. I'll do that real quick on the dollar yen because we had that current trade and we still have a running trade still on the inverted head and shoulders. We also presented a view, an Elliott wave view to go if you hadn't entered a trade in the dollar yen. We also presented another view to our members on how you could enter this trade. So I'll share that right now. We posted a bullish scenario here, jumping back in on this pullback in the pair to go long. Sorry, adjusting these. So we had a bullish view. We're looking at trading this ABC pullback here. So it's still consolidating. This still has a chance to go, but we got a current trade set up for members to trade this and go long for this impulsive move higher on the wave 3, which also takes into the consideration this view of breaking out of this resistance area and move higher. So we've got a couple of different aspects that we're looking at trading here on the dollar yen. Just something I wanted to share. So if you guys don't have any questions, just keeping you aware of website. If you're not a member, visit our website. We show kind of everything we cover, everything we do, provide. Got some videos here from things in the past, some other articles. You see our trade journals that we've posted. Members area. Our members area gives you multiple resources, analysis tools, articles, videos. Go into our training, I guess you'd say. We've got multiple videos describing different analysis methods. Candlestick school, where we go through different videos explaining candlestick patterns and such, trading strategies, different ways to trade, some strategies, and things like that. So if you haven't checked out our website, check it out. If you're not a member, you can join our gold service for $49 a month right now using a coupon code. We have that posted all over the place, so sure look for that. All of our trades and things, members are posted in our members channel. We got a signals channel just for the signals, and we got a members channel that we post daily updates. And we got a members chat where members can chat and discuss things. So if anyone has any questions, now's your chance. If not, we will be wrapping it up. So again, check out all of our multiple social media pages that we post fairly regularly. All right, so with that being said, no other questions. Thanks everyone for joining. Hope to see you soon, and happy trading this week.